American President Donald Trump stated directly that the new supreme leader of Iran will not be able to rule if the United States does not approve his candidacy. In Iran itself, they have already stated that they will not reveal the name of the new leader yet due to concerns for his safety. But in this episode, I suggest first of all analyzing the statement by Donald Trump, who, it must be admitted, managed to establish a pro-American government in Venezuela. But also, and secondly, let's just remember how many times in history the United States has already imposed convenient rulers on countries and what eventually came out of it. Let me say right away, you shouldn't dismiss Donald Trump's words about approving the future supreme leader of Iran. History shows that such a scenario is more than likely. My name is Alexi Pecci, and this is my personal project, Conspiracy Theories, where we actually debunk conspiracy theories and explain complex geopolitical processes in simple terms. Get ready, there will be a lot of facts, a lot of history, and many references to how America has already changed leaders in different countries at various times in history.
America, leaders in countries, periods. America, leaders in subtitles created by Dima Torzok, periods of history.
America changed leaders in countries during periods. So, I'll start by saying that the United States of America has a rich history of interventionism, but President Trump has become especially outspoken about his intentions abroad in recent months. Just in the past week, Trump stated that he should be involved in choosing the next supreme leader of Iran, which, along with his recent actions in Cuba and Venezuela, demonstrates that aggressive military force has become an integral part. Recently, Trump stated that he should be involved in choosing the supreme leader, without hesitating to say it directly. And now many people are accusing Donald Trump himself of behaving like a dictator, saying how can this be? However, that's far from the truth. Recent actions in Cuba and Venezuela show that aggression is inherent, and Donald Trump is far from the first in American history to act this way, and now I'll explain why. First, let me remind you of some important context. On Thursday, Donald Trump stated that he would participate in the selection of Iran's supreme leader as well as his most likely successor. He says, well, yes, most likely, by his actions in Venezuela, he demonstrates that aggression is not suitable and Trump does not approve of it, and therefore for Mojtaba himself to be a part of it. That he will not stay in power for long. Next is a quote from Donald Trump. The son of Khamenei, Mojtaba, is a lightweight. The past week. And this is very important because in January of this year, he overthrew the dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and effectively took control of its rich oil company. As a result, former ally of Nicolas Maduro, Delcy Rodriguez, became an integral part, who recognized her as the legitimate president of Venezuela. Besides oil, he stated that he would also participate in choosing the next one, and gold as well. In short, the story has started, but this is alongside another quote from Donald Trump. As we take action in Cuba and reach the end of our path. In addition to this, Trump stated that he should choose the next supreme leader in the Western Hemisphere and hinted that some leaders might lose their positions. Along with, as you understand, everything else. The rhetoric is as follows. We come, with recent events in Cuba, we remove and appoint a government that suits us. In general, even back in the 20th century, demonstrates aggression. Part of it. as a reason for intervention abroad. However, many scholars suggest that in these cases the United States was primarily protecting not the planet from communism, but its own interests overseas. Both then and now, well, nothing really changes. And here's an important fact for you. According to a 2016 study by the International Peace Science Society, I can leave a link to it in my Telegram, it stated that the US carried out at least 81 interventions in foreign elections between 1946 and 2000. And now I'll just give you a few examples like that. Not all 81, just a few key ones. Let's start with Guatemala. In 1954, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency organized a coup in Guatemala, overthrowing the democratically elected president Jacobo Arbenz. The CIA operation replaced the left-leaning Arbenz with the military dictator Carlos Castillo Armas, supposedly to stop the spread of communism. At that time, it was the United States of America that organized the rebel movement in Guatemala, which essentially overthrew Arbenz. After Arbenz's official resignation, the US physically brought Castillo Armas to Guatemala. After that, he was appointed president. But the point wasn't really about communism, as you understand. The thing is, Arbenz came up with a land reform in the country that would threaten the American-owned United Fruit Company, which owned 42% of Guatemala's land and didn't pay taxes there. Again, this is a fruit-growing company. 42% of Guatemala's land belonged to this company. Arbenz comes in and says, let's carry out land reform, nationalize, and so on. In the end, we can assume that the decision of then US President Eisenhower to overthrow Arbenz was driven more by commercial interests than by geostrategic ones. But the example of Iran is much more interesting. And no, not today's Iran, but again, a historical one. Many historians are quite certain that in 1953, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency organized a coup d'etat with the goal of overthrowing Iran's Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. Among the declassified CIA documents, a draft of an internal history of the coup was found, titled "The Campaign to Install a Pro-Western Government in Iran," which outlines the CIA's intention to bring down Mossadegh's government and replace it with a pro-Western government led by Shah Zahedi as Prime Minister. Zahedi did indeed become prime minister shortly after the coup. And so, in the CIA documents, it is claimed that the goal of the coup was to prevent possible Soviet influence in Iran. But again, historians suggest that the US may have been primarily concerned with securing its oil interests, considering that Mossadegh nationalized the Iranian oil industry. Overall, the United States of America provided financial and military support to many other coups abroad, regardless of whether they played a significant role in selecting leaders to fill vacant positions. One notable example is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the CIA encouraged and assisted in the assassination of the country's first elected prime minister in 1961. In Chile, former President Nixon and the CIA spent $8 million on covert operations to overthrow Salvador Allende. Allende was the socialist president who was elected in 1970. Ultimately, Allende was overthrown as a result of a military coup in Chile, in which the US government, of course, denies any direct involvement. In addition, experts claim that the US Central Intelligence Agency tried to facilitate the overthrow of regimes or interfered in the activities of Latin American governments, in particular in countries such as the Dominican Republic, Brazil, Honduras, and Cuba. And finally, I'll add one very important subjective thought, but it's really important. I'm sure that some Russians who still watch my episodes have already gotten excited at this point, saying, "Here is proof that the United States of America interferes in the politics of other countries, so why can't Russia do the same? Why is it forbidden for Russia to do this? Like, why do Americans interfere, but Russia gets condemned for it?" First of all, the United States of America has intervened in regime changes in those countries where the local people wanted it, just like what's happening in Iran right now. Does this justify the actions of the Americans? Well, probably not really, but still. And secondly, it's already obvious that Russia tried to copy the tactics of the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America in a very clumsy and awkward way. When they claimed that supposedly some Ukrainians asked the Kremlin to send in troops and help Russian speakers in Donbass, in the southeast, and in Crimea. But it turned out that only a small part, a very small part of Ukrainians were happy about the invasion, very few. That's why Russia got stuck in this war for years, because it couldn't come up with anything on its own and tried to copy the American tactic of changing the government in a country. But when you're not capable of anything yourself and just try to copy, you end up with what happened. I'll leave it at that. I'll note right away that this episode was more of a form of reflection, not, some kind of ideological statement. Let's put it that way. So I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode. Russians, you don't need to bother. I'll just ban you. I'm not interested in your opinion at all. I'm making that clear right away. Russians, your opinion isn't of interest here. And honestly, I don't understand what you're doing on American YouTube, on enemy YouTube. That's it. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.